Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with a land acknowledgement that we're meeting on the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nations. Is there any declarations of conflict this time around?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
You want to talk about UPEI?
Oh.
If I have a
Yes.
wife that works, I'm not sure if I have a conflict or not.
Because your
I
wife
guess
works at UP,
because
yeah.
my wife works at UPI.
How would that be conflict?
Because his wife works in finance, right?
Where does she work?
At UPI.
Oh, yeah, well, I see why you did that, because of the 5A, eh?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the conflict of interest, the declaration of conflict. I'm not sure if I do or not.
Oh, I thought you were looking at 5A, and that was what was making you say that. I can't see any conflict of interest for somebody who works at UPEI. Sorry, dear.
We're not, are we voting on anything, Robin, to do with that?
No, I'm kind of just gonna say, like, update you on what happened when I met with them. So I think that should be fine.
Okay.
There's not any major decisions or anything.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to sell a house. I noticed in the last minute. I was mentioned there. The only conflict is I haven't sold the damn thing yet. Sorry, I'm in a meeting. I'll have to call you later.
Yeah, it might be like maybe a conflict later down the line. I feel like we'd have to check with someone. But as of right now, there's no major decisions or anything. So approval of the agenda. If everyone good with the agenda? I'm just gonna take the nods as a yeah. And a
I've got
mover.
question on the agenda.
Sure.
I see that you folks had some I see that with the agenda the last time, there was some discussion and a motion
About the rent increase?
about the rent increase.
Yeah.
And
I guess we're just approving the agenda for today, and I think that's part of the business arising from the minutes from last month's agenda.
Oh yeah.
oh, is okay.
So we're
Okay.
approving the agenda for today, and then we need to move it to second, and then we look at the minutes from last month, and then we can raise that.
Okay.
Okay. So can we get a mover and a seconder for approval of the agenda?
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And then, yeah, so you had a question about the minutes from last meeting, right?
Not a problem.
Did we just approve it though? Moving in a seconder? Yeah. Oh, we have to approve the minutes too? Approve the minutes first and then.
If there, unless you have concerns with the minutes, when we do business arising.
Okay. Okay, so we'd have to approve, okay, so we have to approve the minutes and then discuss them, basically. Does anyone want to move to approve them?
I thought we just did.
That was for,
The agenda.
I see your confusion. It's for the agenda for this meeting and then approval of minutes from last meeting. And then business arising from minutes from last meeting. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, yeah, I think we should move forward and approve them all.
Okay, we just need a mover and a seconder again. Can it be the same twice?
So they move,
Okay.
there has to be some.
Forgot.
You forgot.
I'll move the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. And then, yeah, so you had a question about, the minutes.
I did. And a lot of this is because I'm trying to get my head around exactly what the committee is doing and its purpose and how it's functioning and as a new member. So I see that you, and had a motion regarding the rent increases. Basically to tell council that this committee was opposed to the rent increases. And I don't have a problem with that. But this committee is supposed to, the way I read it, also represent the developers and the building, you know, all components of the affordable housing equation. And as such, there was no discussion about the need for more housing. And I'm going to suggest that why would contractors or anybody else invest in housing if they can't make a reasonable profit? I know that wasn't part of your motion,
No,
but it probably, I guess if I'd have been here, I'd have requested that it would have been.
basically, based on like the history of IRAC, there's never been a rent increase over 3%. So this was a very unusual rent increase. And since then, they've put it into law for 2023. They've went above IRAC and made it 1%.
And I'm not saying that I disagree with you, but I'm just saying that there was no mention of those other two components, the need for more housing and the need for the people building, owning the housing. You know, I'm not sure that, I'm not sure who's supposed to subsidize it, and I kind of hate to say this, but it kind of looks like to me, like it's either the provincial or the federal government needs to make it happen.
Well, for a nonprofit organization like ours, for example. I forgot my hearing aid again today, so if you all speak up, I'll participate. As a nonprofit, I can only speak personally for myself, you know. My bone of contention has always been that the private developers always seem to take priority over the opportunities for a nonprofit private developer like myself. And that doesn't seem fair, but your point is well taken. Why would as you said, why would a private developer get involved if there's no profit incentive there for them, right? So I'm saying that's true and that's good and it could be stated, just as long as it doesn't take anything away from the desire for the nonprofit organizations to have an opportunity to develop at break even.
Just to add to that too, like, say if I was a developer and I was gonna build a new building and I got a certain funding through CMHC or wherever, there's different funding levels kind of in CMHC. So if I was a developer and I wanted to make an okay profit, I could do the one where it's under the affordable housing, which is 30% of the median income of Charlottetown. And the median income of Charlottetown is around 60,000. So you would still get a pretty high rent when you build that building, if that makes sense.
Yep,
And
that
you could
does
still-
make
you know what
sense
I
as long
mean?
as the numbers work. However, my understanding is that building buildings today is even hard to budget for them because the shortages of labor and the shortages of materials, for example, have driven the costs of many projects well beyond what they started at. And the only, I agree that we need to have housing for seniors and those in other situations. I guess there's a whole demographic of people that need assistance with their housing. And somehow there needs to be assistance to make that happen. It appears to me that there needs to be assistance from somewhere for the developers, you know, to make that kind of housing happen.
Well,
I know, funding available from all three levels of government.
but in order to get involved in the game like we did, we had to have some equity, and we were lucky. A private donation came in for close to $1 million. So then all the builders were anxious to talk to us because they knew we had, you know, some money.
No, and I understand there are builders and developers around that know the game better than others, and I understand from listening to what's going on that the federal government and the provincial government have money available, though I understand that sometimes there's a lot of red tape to get through to get at that money.
Yeah.
And I understand that as far as the city's concerned, that there isn't a whole lot of money. I mean, they can give approvals and fast-track things, I understand. But I'm not sure that there's a whole bunch of money from the city, at least that's my understanding.
You're right, there's not a lot of money, but there, you know, the sources of capital for an outfit like mine would be the provincial government, Canada Mortgage and Housing, the federal government, and maybe a bank with a loan from the bank. Those would be the three sources. The main thing I would want from the city would be land, and that's where on our last project, you know, not the city, but the province gave us free land. That's why we developed that 60 units so nicely.
Where was that?
Martha Place over by the French School.
Yeah.
And
So-
even to make that work, we couldn't make it all affordable. We had to have a percentage, 20% of the units had to be market rents, just to make the numbers crunch properly. So that's the dilemma we're always in, and anything, even private developers now, the incentive for them to do it would be to have X number of units affordable, and in order for them to make their projects viable, they would have to have, they would have to have some market rents in there to make it work.
Yeah, and it is like, it's usually an advantage to have like a mix of people in one building. Not only like for developers, but just like a sense of community, and, you know, like, it's always good to have a mix of different people in a building.
And it works quite well, except, you know, we did a survey recently and asked the tenants if they're happy or unhappy. All the seniors in the building said, no, we don't like the idea of having these young people around. They're making too much noise. So the seniors would like to be on their own, I think. But you know, we explained to them that we can't make this project work by doing that. So.
Anyways, Robin, that's the only reason I mean, I think 10.5% and 10% was
Wild.
a little on the high side. And I'd like to know more about this Iraq situation, because who is Iraq, and how come they're the almighty here? I mean, as far as
I can,
the price of rent and the price of fuel.
I recently went on CBC actually about Iraq. I can send you the link.
Iraq is what? A crown
It's,
corporation created by
yeah.
the provincial government to regulate everything, just about.
Yeah, gas prices, rent prices, stuff like that. They're supposed to kind of be, like, from what I understand, relatively non-biased, but it's very hard to actually achieve that. Yeah. I didn't put some things on the minutes, or on the agenda, I'm sorry, because honestly, I didn't really think of them at the time, but there's a co-op info session, like co-op housing info session on Friday at the Farm Center, and I'm going. I don't know if you guys are interested, but I can email the link to it.
Yeah, those are.
And I was also wondering, maybe we might have to wait for when Alex is here, but I was wondering when we can get more new members, because I know before the election, we lost a few people from moving out of Charlottetown. But I feel like we'd have to ask that next time.
Yeah, so Ashley Gillis is on the committee, but she's, I don't think she can be, I don't think she can, well, I don't think she could be on the committee anymore, can she?
I think she's off.
Yeah. So we need a replacement for her, right?
Like, total seats we're supposed to have?
It wouldn't hurt to have a couple more people, even in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think when we first started, it was close to, like, we lost Bob and Ashley. And I can't
And
remember if there was more.
we lost Jamie McDonald, but I think he
3.
replaced Jamie.
I think the number's
We
9.
replaced, it was 9.
I'm thinking I'd have to go back and look at this sheet. I had that same question on my, under new business
Yeah.
list to bring to.
I think we should bring that up next time, just because of curiosity, and obviously we want to have more people.
We could make a recommendation for council or the planning board or whatever we report to get
To-
more members. I mean,
Yeah, it says 9
Yeah.
members
is it really?
appointed by the city.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the members on the committee are here right now, so
So
that's
we need
another 4 or
4.
5 people, right?
And I think I mean, I'm just assuming the reason, because it was close to the election, that a new mayor may have gotten rid of all of us and
Right.
filled the chairs with other
Yeah.
bums.
Well, when we new mayor, it'd be new council, right? So, and that can still happen.
Oh,
Now, how does that work? Is the mayor going to reevaluate what's here and maybe promote and,
I think Philip is responsible for having this committee set up, but so I think it's going to continue. There's no question of that, I'm pretty sure, but, you know, but
This could
the
be our
council could
last
vote
day.
against that. I mean, he doesn't even vote, so. Right, so.
I would like to find out like when we can have some new members. And maybe I'll bring that up next time, or maybe I'll email Philip and or Alex and just be like, when can we? Because it seems like, I don't remember if it was last meeting, but he seemed like he was aware that we lost a couple members, but couldn't do anything till after the election.
Yeah,
I was also, Alex isn't here, but I also want to ask him about short-term rental enforcement the next time.
is he coming to the meeting today?
I don't think.
That's a good question.
I think, yeah.
And I think the answer to that is March 31st is.
It's coming up fast.
Yeah, they won't start doing that, and I can imagine, and this is one of the reasons they picked that date, they gave it a year, that they introduced their new set of rules or regulations towards STRs. And now we're gonna have Canada Games. So Canada Games will be over, so I think they're supposed to address that in March sometime, or March 31st. And I think they're gonna have a hell of a time to,
It'll
doing
definitely
that.
be interesting. But I think I'll bring that up the next meeting too, assuming Alex is here. I'm just assuming he's busy. And I was also wondering what you guys, I was kind of lurking last night, the notes from the last council meeting and about the Park Street shelters. I was wondering what you guys think about the operating hours for the Park Street shelters and if you think they're appropriate, like, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., people aren't supposed to be there.
That's not adequate, in my opinion. It has to be 24/7. And the resources that they're using up at that curling club, I guess they're putting them, a lot of them down at the government garage. There should be enough resources there to run that thing 24/7. So I just know from my experience, I have a crisis center right now, and I have 2 homeless people. I have 2 homeless people in there, and what they're doing is inviting their friends. And what's happening is the place is getting run down. And they're bringing their baggage with them, drugs, alcohol, you name it. And what I did was, I wish I wasn't recorded, but when-
you can,
No.
Do not say something.
what I
crazy.
did was I evicted 2 of them. And I was shocked because I won. Usually Iraq disagrees with me. This time they agreed with me. So I have 2 eviction orders now in place. And the next step for me to do would be to go to the sheriff's office. So I have a board meeting. We had a board meeting yesterday. And you know, they nearly hung me. They said, Campbell, you went to Iraq, you went through the whole process, You got an eviction order and you haven't kicked them out yet? What are you waiting for? Like, they really come hard on me yesterday at a board meeting. And I said, well, what I'm waiting for is for that place down at the government garage to get set up so that when I give them the boot from my place, they can jump into the other place instead of being out on the streets freezing to death at night. And I tried to explain to them that I call that compassion, and they tried to convince me they called it stupidity. Anyway.
I think you're bang on the money. I mean,
Bang on
Yeah,
what
they-
money? You
bang on
saying
the-
I'm stupid?
bang, no, I think you're bang on the money. I think that those things probably need to be supervised or manned 24 hours
Yeah.
a day. But
They will
you're
be
also bang on the money
policed,
that
yeah.
there's no resources. And where are you gonna get the resources from?
No, it's already, it's
I-
like policed
I
or
I was making the point, the
secured.
resources are available.
Yeah.
It just has to be redistributed.
Yeah, like they're basically not kicking them out, but putting them out at 8 a.m. And then the people that are staying in the Park Street shelters can't return again until 8 p.m. And I'm wondering, where are they going? Because, I mean, even if you have a job, like working 8 to 5, like how do you kill those 3 hours? Like, is the outreach going to be overrun? Why can't they just let them stay at Park Street at least, you know, even like 5 p.m. because it gets
Yeah.
very cold at nighttime and the dark comes very early, obviously.
Yeah, it's really a problem. Like, we only have 6 units in this crisis center. And so we decided, after much pressure from the government, to take in the homeless person. And the other people in there, you know, they have different crises that they've gone through: alcohol, drugs, divorce, separation, jail, you know, you name it. And they need the quiet enjoyment of that place to re-enter the neighborhood and the normal workforce. And our little place performs that little miracle for most people. But when you get homeless people in there who have great compassion for their colleagues, their fellow homeless people, well, that's all they're trying to do is get them off the street too. But unfortunately, they all come with their own addictions and issues, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have adequate addictions treatment, and we don't have enough space for
Yeah.
unhoused people. So of course they're going to bring their friends and try to keep them safe.
So what I'm going to do today or tomorrow is I'm going to go down and talk to the homeless guy, and I'm going to say, I've done everything I can do to keep you here, but I understand your compassion for your fellow street people, but my board will not allow that any longer. We tried to hold it off until the other place is ready. It's not quite ready for God knows what reason. I can't understand why that place is not ready yet. And I'll tell them I have to evict them and give them an opportunity to leave. 48, 72 hours to get out, or if they're not gone by then we call in the sheriff.
Yeah, that's awful. And yeah, I
I
haven't
hate doing
checked.
it. It sounds so cruel, considering the climate we're in, you know?
I haven't checked when, like, what's up with why isn't it open yet, Park Street, when it's November. But what I was wondering is if you guys would want to send some kind of, again, like a motion to council to see if they would extend the operating hours of Park Street.
I would support that. Anybody here support that? Everybody?
I'd support that.
So,
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a simple thing, but it would
okay,
make a difference.
let's try motions to, I move that we approach the authorities and ask them to consider opening the homeless shelter at the government garage site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as opposed to the present limited time period.
When you say approach the authorities, we don't really have the authority ourselves to do that technically. We
No,
report to council.
that-
We have to go to council, right?
Right, or what's the committee we report to? Planning? Yeah, so we make a recommendation to planning that under an advocacy, that we're recommending that the, province keep or open extended hours for the shelters, that the temporary shelter that they.
Okay, well, maybe we can try the motion again from
If I
Paul.
could just add, if you temporary shelter for 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. is because they're trying to tie up that shelter. So the intent of the shelter is for overnight shelter. The day events are intended for the other programs that the province, or I guess like the municipality is offering, like their counseling sessions. So they are supposed to attend their day activities, and the night is just for shelter. So I'm not sure if it's planning or it's the province who can answer. Well, maybe you can ask Alex to figure out.
Maybe,
But, I can share the link to the report that talks about the operation, or the link of the video when the province indicated those discussions for their operations.
Yeah, but where do they go? I mean, there's the outreach center, but
maybe somebody should come and speak to us about that.
So what kind of a motion do we have now?
I don't know, I think we could be kind of
I,
general and just say like, you know, that's a long time to expect someone to be away from their, you know, basically their home. Like, even though it's just a shelter, it's really their home. And it's, I just can't picture like any type of outreach program where you can be there for 12 hours a day. And maybe that's wrong.
Yeah. So, you want to try?
well, we can make the recommendation and then, okay, so I'd like to move a motion that the,
No, I want you to restate the motion with those
yeah.
words that you wanted in there. In other words, you move it, and I'll second it.
I just talk, I can't think
well, it
what
says
I
here,
said 2 minutes ago.
it says here, it says here,
Recommendation to
the
the
quick-
council that we extend the hours of the.
Yeah.
You could keep it somewhat vague.
Or the planning,
Go ahead.
you just did it.
and it is council that we should make our recommendation to, according to this document.
Yeah. I think you should do that. Because, you
Sorry, where are we
know,
now?
your job's on the line.
Were you guys waiting for me to do something?
The Affordable Housing Committee would like to make a recommendation to the council that they look at extending the hours of Park Street.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone else to second?
Temporary housing shelters.
Temporary housing shelters.
Okay, I can move that. Unless, you might as well move it.
Can't.
He just moved it.
I moved it.
I'll second it, or.
Okay,
Now it'll be up to council or the planning to say that we're, you know,
I have a question, not on the motion, but I have a question on the subject. People need education. People aren't gonna improve their lots in life without education. They've gotta learn the skills that they need to learn somewhere.
Yeah.
Why with these housing units, is there not a classroom? Is there not something that somebody could put on to help these people to learn that if they get whatever they get for welfare, they can only spend so much a day, and that they have to have a budget? And
Outreach on site.
I think once you get
I'm
permanent
not sure
housing
what-
solution,
It's kind of like an outreach program. Like whenever I, just like relating my own experience, back when I dropped out of high school, I was in an outreach program and they did teach us stuff like that. And so I'm assuming the outreach does have, I know they have various like little classes and stuff like that, but they would have to travel downtown. You know what I mean?
it might be easier to take the information to those
You're totally right.
than to have them.
Space is an issue.
yeah, it's, you know,
And I mean, Park Street's only temporary, but I totally agree that like any sorts of resources should be very much easily accessible, the same way like the outreach is a good place because it's close to the food bank. Things like that.
well, it's true. And their coping mechanisms now, it's learned behavior that they got from their home, their parents, you know. So they're a product of all that they have met in life thus far.
But some of our learned behaviors aren't that good, and sometimes we need to make changes to those learned behaviors, and we need to learn how to do that somewhere.
But it's important to understand your good point there, Mike, you know, that they are a product of all they've met so far, so we have to keep, that's where my compassion comes in, when I realize that, you know. It's not all your fault you're on the street and you're on drugs and you're this and that and the other thing. These are all coping mechanisms you watch your father and mother use to overcome the issues of life.
Yeah, that, and, yeah, that's a tough situation and tough. That's more of a mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe-
More of a provincial thing almost.
Yeah.
We need further mental health funding and outreach funding, which we
So
definitely should have.
I try to
but
tell the board, I'm not stupid, I'm just compassionate.
I'm a little
Nobody-
stupid.
Nobody believes me.
Well, it seems to me that there's getting to be, I mean, I was kind of blown away when I was told there was 50 tents in town this year.
Yeah, I was watching the legislature and like the housing minister Matthew said, I forgot the exact number of homeless people, but it was over 600 in PEI, and it would amount to 1 in 250 Islanders are homeless, which
Yeah,
is crazy.
And that kind of blows me away. It really does. So there's obviously there's obviously a need for that kind of education. And you know, if I walk these streets down here, there's lots of buildings that are empty and have empty spaces in them, which are in walking distance of that temporary facility at the government place down there.
If it was up to me, it would be a permanent. Like if I was just not a world, I would just make it a
That's why it's,
solution.
you know, we thought that we have some really good role models in our crisis center. They're doing really well. They've come out of their treatment program, whatever they were in, and now they just need this quiet, safe environment we allow them to stay for up to 12 months. And, you know, the idea is to get themselves back into the community and live normal lives there. So, it's difficult, but we're doing it. We've been doing it for 30-some years.
I just wanted to like real quick. I just noticed we're getting close to 1. The UPEI stuff, I don't really have a lot to say, but the long story short, I met with UPEI, with the VP of Research and Academic, and with the registrar, Donna, and they're like, they really need student housing. So basically, I told them to get in contact with the province too, and I told them that I'd keep meeting with them because they're kind of open to any solutions. But they're really in a bind for student housing. And with the new building they built, it's 260 new units, but some of the old units are going to need to be repaired. Yeah, basically I met with UPEI and they need student housing really bad. I'm not sure, honestly, what the city can do, but I'll probably end up bringing that up again next meeting when Alex is here.
Well, I can add to that. I can tell you, because I kind of live with it.
Yeah.
Their waiting list for housing is 400 at this point in time.
The province, yeah.
No.
UPEI, right?
Oh, my, okay, sorry.
400 on the list that need accommodation or housing there. In the past, they've gone into, I forget the name of the little hotel, a couple little hotels
Yeah, they've told me too, like they've kind of collaborated with Holland College. They've done, you know, they
It's interesting, like,
have lists of people with rooms for rent, but it's not enough. So,
going to say, this house I'm trying to sell on 259 Queen, this is not a sales promotion, by the way, but one of the guys that's trying to buy it wants to turn it into a resident for students, UPEI students, who have no place to stay. And he's running into problems with this place here.
is it like a
The
zoning?
bylaws are not cooperating. Like, he can, right now, the bylaws are such that he can only legally have 4 rooms for students, where he wants to put 6 or 7, you know? Part of the obstacle to getting things done properly is the city's bylaws themselves. I hope somebody hears that.
No, Rob, I'm not sure the numbers. I'm gonna try and, I'm gonna ballpark, and I think they're gonna try and get another 100 beds into the new residence. And there has been discussions with a minister about another residence.
Yeah,
But-
I think they were very in contact with the new housing minister, Matthew McKay.
No, this is federal minister.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I can't believe a lot of student housing, like I never gone to UPEI or like gone
There's
to a
a
different
real-
province
yeah.
to school, but like, it was worse than I thought, to be honest.
The number of students at UPI over the last 10 years has grown significantly. And there's, I can't give you the numbers, there's a lot of students from away, like foreign students. And yeah, so the need for housing is huge.
I see that problem too. Another thing that we do is we have a little bank where we lend people money, especially foreign students. And I'm getting a lot of calls recently to help them with their tuition. Tuition fees are too high, they can't afford it. And a lot of them are gonna have to leave, go back to their own countries just because of the housing issue too.
Yeah, for international students, I think tuition is double or almost triple.
It's double.
Double?
Yeah.
There's too many problems and there's not enough solutions.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'll just keep you guys updated if I meet with UPI again or if anything happens. I kind of just sat down and had a general chat with them.
UPI does have lots of land. They can build student housing on.
Apparently, allegedly, they
What?
they don't have much land left after the medical school, from what I
Really?
understand.
In Charlottetown, you mean?
Yeah, because they're starting work on the medical school, which I think maybe
Oh,
2024
you're
or
talking about
something.
UPEI.
Yeah.
Well, they've got enough room to build another large residence, is my understanding.
Don't they have a lot of room out behind the mount?
Yeah.
There's some room, some of that does belong to the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sisters of St. Martha.
Yeah, and there's a couple other pieces of property that they're kicking the tires on. I mean,
But they could build a high rise.
beg your pardon?
They could build a high rise, can they not?
They can't, I asked.
Why is that?
There's land available. I've been told by
Legal,
But
counselors.
I was reading last night about, like again from the council minutes or whatever, a building on 199 Grafton is being allowed 2 additional stories based on some requirement for being like a green building or something. So I feel like UPI should probably just apply and see if the city would let them build higher, but I feel like it's doubtful. I think the highest they can build is that new building they have.
the new, that's actually 1 story higher than the, what do you call it, the regulations
In other words, 5.
permit. They got a variance on that, to build that building. And obviously, I don't think variances to go up are gonna be that big of an issue in the future. When you take all the things that we're discussing into consideration.
Another,
I don't know. I was asking them too if they could build. So yeah, I haven't seen like the plans for the medical school, but I was like, why don't you try to get a variance and add another floor to the medical school and make that just dorms?
There's a meeting tonight at the Rod Royalty, and it's a public meeting. The process has already been started for the medical building, and of course, they have to go through and get building permits and go through the whole routine. And tonight is the first public meeting with the planning board at the Rod Royalty.
oh, really? Okay.
And
There's so much going on. Like, I have a meeting tomorrow night, and the minister, what's his name? Fox will be there, and McKay. But this is for temporary foreign workers. There's some communities on this island that cannot find workers to support the businesses in the community. And there's an economic development group that I've been invited to tomorrow night that want to do something about it, and they want to get all the stakeholders around the table to see if we can put something together about a 35-unit apartment building in a certain community where they don't have enough housing for the workers, for the businesses that are in the community. Well, that's just like, there's the student, there's, the housing issue is everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, like you can't just solve student housing alone, it's kind of a whole, it all goes together. But anyways, I think that's all I've had on the agenda slash on my notes. I'm going to that co-op info session on Friday. I'll send the link if any of you guys want to come. And next time I'm going to ask about new members, short-term rental enforcement. And I think that's it if you guys want to adjourn the meeting.
I do think,
Before you do that, Robin, the next time I'd like to have on the agenda, I'd like to go through and have some questions about this Affordable Housing Committee
Yeah, sure.
and our terms
That would
of-
be good too if we have new members.
and our terms of reference. And it does say in there that there should be 9 members. And it does say that they will be selected on a basis of their potential to contribute to affordable housing. The committee shall be appointed by the chair of the committee. I'm looking.
Yeah, we haven't really gone over the terms of reference.
council has to vote on it,
But it
too.
also goes on to say that, in the beginning here, that development, building, real estate communities. So the committee is to serve as an advisory liaison between council and the development, building, and real estate community. Will also provide advice to council on the implementation of the City of Charlottetown's affordable housing strategy. So it would be kind of nice to discuss that and see if we could maybe have our own, have the committee maybe have some priorities and some goals.
Yeah, totally.
And
Make sure we're all on the same page in terms of thinking about this.
Yeah, my main things on my mind lately are Park Street, but that's kind of, once it starts going, it's going to kind of be, we'd be done talking about it. Park Street and student housing. We can bring up other stuff too, of course.
senior housing is going to be a big issue.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
we know it's going to be there, but all of a sudden it's going to be an issue, And
It's,
be in our lap.
It's a big issue now, and I don't know if you've seen it too during Hurricane Fiona. I think it's provincially funded / provided buildings for seniors. They were really, really damaged, and seniors were in the dark. It was really scary, actually. But seniors are a big issue. Well, they're not an issue. They're seniors housing is a big issue. Yeah, so I'll just add, we can talk about terms of reference next time. Yeah. Is that everything?
I think we also need to look at the city's incentive plan for development for affordable housing. It's really there's only really 2 pieces of things that the city has real control over, which is the policy for incentives for affordable housing and the short-term rental regulations, right? So that short-term rental has been decided, right? So that's off the table, at least for now, I think, more or less. I mean, there could be issues in the implementation and all that, but
Yeah,
I think
once
the things that we directly control at the city level, and what we can have impact on is really the incentives for affordable housing. What does that look like? There's an existing plan, but, at some point that needs to come back on the table so that we can then provide our input, recommendations to council on that, and then maybe that goes away for a while. But those are the 2 things that I see that the committee has potential. And after that, we're into an advocacy role, right? More or less. We're an advocacy role anyways.
I think that's wishful thinking. I think there's going to be a lot of things on our plate.
Oh, yeah.
On this committee's plate, as time evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we want to adjourn the meeting? I don't know if I can adjourn a meeting, I forget.
Motion to adjourn. There we go.
Perfect, thank you.